hello.
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 So, uh, people should be tuning in now. Let's see. Are you guys? Is it live for you guys?
Mm-mm.
You on Red Space, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Let me actually click the announcement that you sent.
Okay, there we go. Then I need to go here, and then I should be able to transition. So, hello everybody. This is Esports Unlocked, a podcast done by RedSpace. So, I am one of your hosts. I am James, also known as Redes. And then today I am joined by my lovely co-host, Esther Space, also known as Susanna, or Sus.
Hello.
And then today will we be interviewing the lovely Baymaxed, also known as Heather, who has previously worked at Valiant as a social media and community coordinator, and is now the senior video producer at Team Liquid. So hello, Heather.
Hello, hello.
So how is it?
Senior video editor, actually.
Senior video
I work in
editor.
post-production.
Post-production.
Yes.
Okay. Our first question for you is, how did you get into esports?
Yeah. So I first got into esports when the Overwatch League started. I went to film school and I knew that I wanted to do post-production video editing. And I started doing that in fashion. I worked at athletics fashion company. So I was editing for them and it was fun. I enjoyed it. Got a lot of free clothes, but around that time, the Overwatch League started, and I've been a big gamer my whole life. So, as someone who played a ton of Overwatch, I was really, really excited to get into this esport because I played League and followed League, but I didn't follow League as closely as like I was ready to follow Overwatch League. I was really excited with how they were treating it, and so I had it up on my screen at work, and all these women that I work with, because it's a fashion company, there was predominantly women. They were all like, "Oh, it's this," and I'm like, "Oh, it's so cool! Like, it's like the professional scene of like this game that I play." And like they were like, I was ecstatic, and they were obviously happy for me, but they were like, "Oh yeah." And after, I was bummed that no one, other than like my friend group, no one at work like really knew why this is cool, and they didn't understand it. And I kind of decided that I want to be surrounded by people who think that this esports thing is cool. So I started looking for jobs in the industry, and I thought I might as well start with my favorite team, which was the Los Angeles Valiant. And I saw that they were hiring for a social media coordinator. And I was a little nervous because I don't do social media. Like even my personal social medias, I was on it, but I wasn't a poster. I was like someone who just browsed through it. So I was like, well, I looked at the job responsibilities and I'm like, okay, I could do this. It's just going to be an adjustment. So I had an interview with them. And they hired me. And I think they hired me mainly because of what I can do in video editing, and I'm great at Photoshop. So like a lot of those things are really useful for memes. And there's so much more to being a social media coordinator than memes, but it is a big part of it. So I actually impressed him. The reason I actually got the first interview is because I posted a meme of The Incredibles. I wish I could show it to you, but like it was a perfectly timed meme. It was really funny, and it was just for my personal account. And Valiant shared it, so it actually got a lot of interaction. And so when I applied, I mentioned that in my resume, and it was just like a crazy coincidence. And because Los Angeles Valiant is in LA and I live in LA, he actually recognized me from one event that they had at a bar, because I chatted with him, and he's like, "Oh wait, are you that girl I talked to about this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that was me." So that did help, I will admit, like having that like face, and he got some talking to me before I had even applied to the job. So I got the job, and I did a lot of video editing there just to kind of make those memes. It was very minimal, but it was like cool fun effects. You know, we've all made memes at some point. We've all downloaded Adobe Premiere just to make a meme. So I really enjoyed doing that. I love the Overwatch League. I really enjoyed social media, which I learned the job from my boss, Steve. It was amazing. And so everything I kind of really know about esports branding comes from him. And it was lovely. But after a while, I really, really missed video production. Like that's what I went to school for. And that's what I kind of came into the world to do. And so I felt like, okay, I'm in esports now. Like, let me, I was ready to go to a video editing job. I wasn't job searching. Someone actually messaged me and offered me this job at Team Liquid. And it was for a video editor, and I was really excited. And it was Team Liquid, which made me mega excited. Plus, I'm a big, big, big League of Legends fan. So Immortals didn't have a League of Legends team at the time. So I was like, I would love, love, love to go into like League again and be a video editor. And it all kind of like clicked at the perfect time, I think. So he's like, yeah, why don't you send me your reel? So I wanted to update my reel for this new job because there's a lot of new stuff I wanted to add. So I actually YouTubed like how to make a editing reel. Like I've made editing reels before, but I wanted inspiration and ideas. The very first video it's got like tons of views. I can't tell you how many views, but like it was the number one clicked. I watch it. This guy's like super like, okay guys, here's how you make a like YouTube video or a YouTube video. Here's how you make a reel. And like I watched the whole thing. And I'm looking at this guy's face and I'm like, he looks super familiar. And then I look at his YouTube icon, his like profile picture, and it's the same icon profile picture as the guy who messaged me from Team Liquid. Turns out that was my now boss. In order to prepare to like give this guy my reel, I watched a video of that same guy, which is perfect because I got like an inside scoop about what he was looking for in a reel. So I thought that was so funny. And that really, really made me excited too, because a big goal of mine is to grow as a video editor. I don't really want to go somewhere where I don't feel like I can grow. And this guy's awesome. He's got a video editing YouTube channel. Like his name is Ian Sands, or his name is Ian Sansevera, but his IGN is not Ian Sands. And he's great. And so like he was a big reason why I came. So now I'm at Team Liquid doing, I just got promoted at the beginning of this year to senior video editor. I came on as video editor, but I've been working on all things YouTube for Team Liquid. Editing all their videos, working on series like Squad. Right now I'm working on Origins, and it's been great. It's been really, really good.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, completely.
Story there.
No, it was great. So what actually was your role at LA Valiant, and what did you end up doing, and what does it involve? Can you talk us through that kind of process of your job there?
Yeah. So LA Valiant has so the company, which is now called IGC, has multiple teams. They had their Overwatch League team was called LA Valiant, but they also had MIBR playing in CSGO. We also had Rainbow Six. So all of those things need their own accounts. Like they all have sometimes they combine, like there was just an Immortals Twitter, but then they decided to separate because a lot of it was in Portuguese. So they're like, we should just make our own. So all of those things needed a social media account, and that's a lot to manage. So I came on to Steve was our social media manager. He's the one who hired me, and I was a coordinator along with, for most of my career there, like one other person who spoke Portuguese, so he handled all of those. So I kind of really took LA Valiant under my wing because that was kind of my comfort zone. I knew how to meme it. I knew the community. I followed obviously very closely, so I did a lot just for Valiant, but it's a lot more than just posting memes. Like you want general engagement, right? Like social media is a place where people can really connect to like their favorite teams. And I think that's really something that esports has that's special. Like if you look at traditional sports, a lot of that is done through the television, which is way less personal and way less interactive. You don't really see a lot of players really active on their social medias, but in our world, that's very common. So and Twitch too is just a great way of like connecting to your audience, like your community, and in this case your fans, in a really personal way. So that personability is something Valiant really valued. So I did a lot of like talking to fans, like even if it's just they DM us, like replying to their comments or replying to their fan art to really make them feel seen, because I genuinely loved seeing their fan art too. So it's not like, oh, someone did fan art, click, click, click. It's like, no, like it was cool. I'm naturally seeing this and reacting to it. And it really made their day. Like getting a message from LA Valiant made them so happy, and it made them like feel more encouraged to be a fan. And there's a lot of validity in that. So interacting with the community is a big one. Memes is just a form of that. Like, you know, you want to be relevant and funny and get your stuff shared. So that is a staple. But also too, there's a lot of responsibility when like delivering for partners. So we had a lot of partnerships at Immortals that in our contracts, we have to post whether a video, like the whole partnerships team agrees on what that would be, but a lot of the time it comes with, for example, otter pops. I don't know if you know what otter pops are. They're these like those like thin bags of like juice that you freeze and then they become like, some people call them freezies.
Oh,
Icicles.
yeah.
No, not
Yeah.
popsicle.
I love ice pops.
Ice pops. Yeah.
Ice
Ice
pops?
pops. It's what we call them in the UK, I think.
Yeah, in Canada they called them, I think, freezies, but I've always known them as Otter Pops, which is a brand. We for some reason partnered with that brand, and their only requirement was that we post 12 posts throughout the year. They didn't even specify. A lot of partnerships say like, we want to have this series. Like for the tire company that we sponsored with, they wanted the slogan like, what drives you, and so they wanted all of it to be themed like that. Otter Pops is just like, can you post 12 times about us? So we're like, okay. So that was actually one of the first things I had to do going into Overwatch League. I got one of our more popular players, who is Custa, who's now my best friend. He lives right upstairs. I pulled him out from practice and I'm like, hey, I have to do a post about Otter Pops. Can I take a picture of you wearing this shirt? I handed him like a tank top. I'm like, can we get you like sunbathing in the grass, which we live in LA, so the grass is like dead. I had to Photoshop it to make it look alive.
Nice.
With an otter pop. And like, so I snapped that photo. It was so, we still meme for him till this day because he's like really like blindingly like bright in it. And like, it's just so funny. And like the otter pop wasn't even frozen, so we had to like hold it in a way that it's not like flopping around. But that was part of the job. Like I had to get that posted at a certain time. We had to get interaction on it. And it honestly worked really well in favor of the partner, because if you just post like a really cut and dry, like go eat otter pops, like no one's going to interact with that.
Yeah.
So the fact that I kind of made Custa go into this like funny position of like having to like sunbathe with an otter pop, like people interacted with it because it was him. And I think otter pops really appreciated that. So that's something that I challenge all social media people out there in and out of esports to do, is like, don't treat these partnerships as just like obligations. Like, yep, we got to do 12 posts. Like find ways to really make it interactive. Not only will it make your partner want to come back, but you don't want to fill your own social media with boring like partnership tweets. You want them to be like good. You don't want your audience to get bored with what you're saying. So that's part of the challenge too. And like, it's a little easy to say, but it can be really hard to like ideate. It's definitely a team effort. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
I see what you did earlier, because you said how you felt that all the fans were under your wing while at Valiant.
Under my wings out.
So what you do at Team Liquid now, how does that kind of differ from what you did at Valiant? And like, what are you a lot happier now that you're back in video editing?
Yeah, I would definitely say I am. Going to social media was definitely a step out of my comfort zone. It took a lot of courage, because I wasn't sure if this is something I would be good at. The thing that made me the most nervous was writing copies. Like I can create something cool to post, but how to say it in the actual tweet made me so nervous, because it's not just my voice. It's not even my voice. It's the voice of Valiant. And so I had to learn who Valiant was in order to speak for them. Like there was a lot of pressure in that. And it took getting used to, but I did get used to it. So that's out of my comfort zone. And after a year, I was well within my comfort zone. And then going back to video editing, I was excited. I very much wanted to do it. And I realized in my first week, like, well, wait, I haven't really done story video editing in a year, like a full year. Because in college, I did it a lot. And I worked a lot in TV and film. And I did video editing there. But I was like, wow, I'm so rusty. Like, it's so different to edit, like, you know, like Custa's face on a cartoon character than it is to like tell the story about like our Dota manager. So I was nervous in that, like, I felt out of my comfort zone again. But I'm also stubborn. So I was like, no, you know how to do this. You literally went to school for this. Like, this is your passion. Like, you know how to do this. Just shake it off. So it was like a rusty start, but I think I did just fine. I don't think anyone knew that I was having a rusty start. And definitely in my comfort zone now. Like, what's great about this job is that I'm not on just a series that's constantly being pumped out. At some points, I am, but like not lately and not all the time. I'm always getting something new and different. And what I love about Team Liquid in particular is they're always doing something new and different. We have so many new partnerships and we have so many new like just fun events and like just things that we're doing. So even us as a content team don't always have the bandwidth to just create content for like fun. But the stuff that we do have to create, but the stuff that we do create, which is like our partnerships team, for example, decided to do something called a fan above, where they you like show how much of a fan you are and they'll fly you out and you'll get to meet your favorite team and you'll do a photo shoot. You'll be officially signed to Team Liquid as like the official fans. Like it was really cool. Like if I was a fan, I would have freaked out. They had so much fun. It was during TwitchCon too. But I created the promo for that and I don't know, it was just fun to edit, even though it was kind of a simple edit, like showing, like when we said that, like, you'll do a content shoot, I like did a shot of our content studio, but it was fun just because I'm like the whole time thinking like, this is so cool that we're doing this. Like fans are going to be so excited when they watch this video to see all of these things that they could potentially win. So like that, you know, I didn't have to edit again, but it was a fun edit that I had to do that week. So you get a lot of like that fun stuff coming in, as well as like really good recurring series like Squad. We have a system for, so I know what to expect if I know I'm going into Squad. Like right now I'm working on Origins. I kind of know what to expect there. So it's been great to be back in editing. It's been great to be working on a content team. So I'm with other editors. I'm learning with other editors. And obviously my boss is like professionally works as director of our studio, but also on the side professionally works as a like partnered YouTuber, like #1. He works with Adobe now too on like video editing. So I've been learning so much from him and it's been good. It's definitely like the grind of staying up really late, which you do have to do in both jobs, in any esports job. But staying up late, like I stayed up till 4 a.m. doing this cut that I'm in the middle of right now because I needed to kind of get it done for whoever needs to see it right now. Yeah. And it's hard to do that. But if you really care about esports and you really like what you do, it obviously makes it 10 times easier. Like staying up till 4 a.m. to do social media, as much as I loved our team and like I really wanted to see if we won, because that's usually why I was staying up till 4 a.m. I didn't love the having to tweet it out. And I didn't love like we lost. So I have to come up with that awkward tweet of like, we lost, you know, like, and that staying up till 4 is not as motivating as this staying up till 4, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's like you love it versus stuff you just didn't enjoy as much. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So can you talk us through like how you've helped Starlust and Killsteel grow?
Yeah. So Starlust and Killsteel are my best friend's brands. Her name is Sabrina Wong. If you haven't heard of her, then you are not in esports. She's has a long history in esports, but right now she's currently at Evil Geniuses. I met her at Immortals. She did our events. I obviously did our social, and I met her, like, she was introduced right, like we got hired almost at the same time. And I just remember the moment we met because I was doing I was assigned a Dota meme and I don't play Dota. So it's like my second day and I'm like already mega struggling because I'm like, I don't know how to joke about a game I literally know nothing about. So she passed by to go get some supplies and I'm like, hey, Sabrina, right? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, do you play Dota? She's like, no, I play League. I'm like, dang it, me too. Who plays Dota? And then after that, we like bonded a lot. So over the however many years, she's now like my best friend. She also lives upstairs. She decided to make an esports apparel company called Killsteel, and she knows apparel inside and out, and this is kind of her way of like not just creatively expressing herself but being like, hey, I can put my hat in this ring. I know esports, I know apparel, let's do this. So she, and Seb's someone who's like, if she wants to do it, she does it. Mad respect. So she decided to make this, and like she's my best friend, so I want to help her in any way that I can. So like I've only done like a couple things with her. I've done like her animated logo, like all of my expertise is what I've helped in. So animated logo, when she did a partnership with Custa, she didn't even ask for it. I kind of just felt like I felt that creative high and I'm like, I'm gonna make something. So I decided to make like a no leaks trailer, and everyone loved that. And so that's just kind of my way of helping. That's kind of the only way I'm involved in Killsteel, other than helping her package all this clothes and like because she actually does it all herself. She like if you ordered a large hoodie, she puts it in the thing, wraps it, and then puts your label on it. So I'll help her with that, but also just any like media stuff that she'll need, I'm happy to help her because I definitely support her. And it's the same with Starlust. Although Starlust, they like actually signed me on as staff, which is a little different, because unlike Killsteel, Starlust, I think they announced yesterday, have like this whole plan about how they want to market. Starlust is her cosmetic company. She's gearing it toward gamers, but it's also like really girly, really like kawaii. And so we're actually like, we just launched like these 3 girl personalities that are going to be a part of this Starlust world. And we're actually building out like exactly that, a Starless world. If you've ever played a dating sim, like we're going to be posting these videos of them like as dating sims. And so because they want a lot of those, they're like, why don't you like sign on and then like kind of take this on? And of course I want to support her in any way. So I was like, sure, I'll do it. So we're making that right now. So that's a little, I guess Killsteel is like whenever she needs it. Whereas Starlust is like, I agreed to like help with these things. I also helped her shoot the first trailer. We did it all in my living room, and anything media related that she needs, I've been helping her out with.
Nice, that's awesome.
I saw like the high-tech rig that you had for that first photo shoot. It wasn't. Was it like a chopstick on a drill to get that rotating shot?
Yeah, normal people would buy something called a Lazy Susan, which if you've ever like had family dinners, sometimes they put them on a Lazy Susan. You can turn the food around, but they also have automated ones that you could put products on top of. So like if I wanted like a really cool shot of like my cell phone, I could prop it up on the Lazy Susan and it will like spin around. But we didn't have that. So I had to like take the palette. This is a Starless sticker, but I had to take the palette, put it on like the chopstick, put the chopstick in a drill, and then I tried to drill it as slow as possible because it would like whip around like NASA speed. So we had to go like really slow, and then I had to slow it down. It was so janky, but the jankiness makes me really proud about how it came out.
Honestly, this sounds incredible.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. I'm really interested by what is happening with Starlust because I did see the tweet about it yesterday. How it was claiming to be like an interactive video promotion experience, which that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it'll be fun because it's a dating sim. You could kind of like pick the outcomes. So they're gonna do it in form of Twitter polls. So you'll have options of like what to say next, and then Twitter votes, and then I think soon after the next scene comes up. So it'll be fun. Yeah.
Okay. So our next question, a bit of the elephant in the room. How has the pandemic affected your work and like how you've had to handle going about your daily life through work?
Yeah, well, I am very, very blessed because I still have my job. Because I know a lot of people didn't have that that not just luxury, the necessity. So yes, I'm very blessed. And not only that, like Team Liquid is great. They handled the transition, I think, really, really well. They didn't wait either. They were like, we were concerned about your safety. So we did go on work from home, I feel like pretty early compared to a lot of other places in the country. But what's nice is I'm sitting here in front of these 2 monitors with this computer no matter what. So for me, and my boyfriend is also an editor there. For us, it was just taking our setups, our work setups, putting our personal gaming setups in the closet because these are much better than mine anyway, and like putting them in here and like just trying to pick up from here. I'd say the hardest thing about the transition is we shoot a lot of stuff and we edit a lot of stuff, and all of that footage is very large. So we have a giant server at the facility where we like put all of our footage, and then anyone who's connected to the server can take it down. It's not like we hand everyone a hard drive, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't have that right now. So now we do hand everyone who needs the footage a hard drive. We've gotten to this nice groove about utilizing Dropbox, but it's not ideal. I miss the server a lot. I miss being able to like, especially because a lot of our footage is sourced from like the past. So if I did like a video, like I recently just did a piece on Elige, and he's been on our team for a really long time. So I needed to get footage of him from like a quadrillion years ago. And that normally I would just go on the server for that, but now I had to like go find it. It was really difficult. So that's been hard, but again, like it's been almost a year now. Wow, that's crazy. And we've gotten into this groove.
Yeah.
So for me, it's easy. I can't say the same for like our shooters. I know that like they have to shoot a lot less now, and I'm sure production is really hard because they can't hire as many people because they need to stay as far away from each other as possible. So I know it's been an adjustment for them. But for me, like it's hard to complain because I know, again, I still have my job. So like other than the server and other than I miss the coffee at work and other than I kind of miss like going to a different place, like our facility is cool. It's a big perk of the job. If you've ever seen videos of it, it's amazing. I had my own edit bay, which is nice. So like I had my space to really focus and think. But I don't know. Honestly, now I'm in a good place, like mainly because I adopted 2 COVID kitties. Like during this time, I adopted 2 kitties, and now I'm like, wait, when we go back to work, this will be the first time ever I've been like away from the cats for like a long period of time, and I'm sure the cats are gonna be fine with that. But I'm gonna be like at home texting them or something. So it's nice to like have my cat on my lap and get to work too, and like other things like stretching and like I will say like I've been more productive taking a 10-minute power nap, which I can never do at work. So like I think it's kind of like almost like a modern day like work style. I think a lot of companies now are kind of considering work from home because productivity has gone up.
Really?
Across the board. So like, yeah, and so it's interesting because I think people are like, I've noticed my exhaustion has been lower because I don't have to make that travel to work, and like, I don't know, it depends on your style. Like my boyfriend definitely misses the office. He feels more creative there, but I like having my, I don't know, comfort of home. I feel like I could be more creative in my comfort at home than like, I don't know. It's about the same, but I like this so far. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Nice. So you've been saying like how well you've been handling things and how much you've been loving working at esports and everything. But is there anything that you think that could be just improved within esports, within the places you've worked, with how things are run, how they're handling the pandemic? Do you think there's like anything that just could be improved within the esports?
Yeah, I definitely think more representation. Like obviously, I know that that's like thrown around, but like truly, like I think we as an esports have really worked toward that in recent years. Either that or I've just been more involved in the groups that are doing that. But I definitely have like seen it. But we are not at all where I think we should be. Like I think continuing to grow that, continuing to make it a space where like you can without a second thought just have organically that diversity, like of course I wish that for the world. But yeah, like seeing obviously like women pro players and like more people of color like in and out of like internal and competitive, like just having that representation there and knowing that like this is like gaming is not exclusive to anyone. Like even like it's not exclusive in a class sense. Like, yes, it's really, really hard to play PC games if you can't afford that PC, but there are so many games out there that like it's very accessible. Like mobile gaming, there's pro mobile gaming, and like very often like people have the phones to do that. So I think that obviously working toward more of that. I also think too that esports is growing, right? And it's hard, like especially like the younger esports audience doesn't really realize like how grassroots this industry is. Not long ago at all, like I remember like when it was just so janky and it's not janky, it was full of like really passionate people who don't have the money and the resources, but they have the passion, and that's why this exists. And like I like literally esports is being carried off those people who are so passionate about this, because it wouldn't have grown to what it is and be as successful as it is if people didn't believe in it. And now it's great to see like all of these resources coming in. Like a lot of investors are noticing, hey, this esports thing is like a really valuable industry. It's growing faster. The not esports, but the video game industry is growing faster than the film industry. And like, this is something that are getting eyes. And now we have a lot of big brands attached to esports. And so it's only growing from there, which is awesome. I love it. We're definitely in some growing pains right now. Like when you work in esports, you gotta watch out for where you're going. It much more back then, back in the more grassroots days, it was very like you could potentially sign full-time to a team that like doesn't pay you. Like we've seen that, we've heard from that, and they get in trouble, but like, like you got to be careful. And so today, like there's a weird mix of that. Like you gotta be sure that like the team, if like a team reaches out to you, you have to look into them, make sure that they have the means to pay you. Are they a legitimate, or like legitimate as in like they are set up to hire you when they're trying to hire you, like Team Liquid was an obvious way of seeing like the reason why I'm happy I'm at Team Liquid and I don't want to go anywhere else is because I love the level of professionalism that this organization has. Not just like professionalism in the sense of just how they act and how like they operate, but in like how much it's just structured to be an actual business. Like, wow, it's like the real world, quote unquote, as if esports isn't the real world. But like, it feels really nice to have like the system in place, like the resources. A lot of esports teams today, even even big orgs, like big name orgs, don't resource their staff very well at all. Not just like compensation wise, but like at teams that I've worked at in the past, I wasn't allowed to have like, not allowed, but I couldn't get half the resources I needed to do my job. Or, oh my gosh, you see this so often. People are doing 3 jobs, 3 totally, completely unrelated different jobs. Like that is something esports does because it can't really afford to hire 3 people to do 3 different jobs. And so they kind of just like double dip. And so it makes like the kind of quality of life working there a lot lower. What I love about Team Liquid is they don't do that to you. They hire if they need it. They are set up to do that. And so that's something I think esports needs to work on as well. Like, I think it needs to be, and maybe this is part of the growing pains, but like, I think honestly, without sounding too like #TL win, like more like Team Liquid and like how they operate, or like being an actual business and not like working out of apartment buildings. Immortals is great. And there's a lot about them that was professional, but I will say my office was in an apartment building next to a laundry machine. Like we had rented out an apartment complex. So like, and not everyone could build a nice esports facility, but you also don't have to work out of apartments right now either. Like you could find like office spaces to work in. And like in a lot of ways, like Immortals 2 did like double dip a lot with like staff and like what they're doing, and like, let's not hire someone for that. Let's just try and get us to do it. And it's like, we can't, like there's a lot of that in esports right now. It's everywhere. And so you got to just be careful for that. And I think we just need to grow. Like, how can we grow if we're not putting the resources into ourselves, we sign these investors and then we don't really invest it in ourselves to be able to grow. Like, we're not going to attract new people. Like, we're ultimately not going to reach the people we need because we don't have the resources to do that, because we're not hiring and we're not like putting money into it. So I think that growing pain is something that we need to get through to be more legit.
I definitely say that oh, go on, Sus.
Oh no, I was just gonna say a quick. I had another quick question. So James, if you want to go first, quickly.
I definitely agree with you. Like social media manager can be like a role that's advertised, and then you look at the job description, and it's like video producer, video editor. Like it's like 10 different jobs under one title.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
It's sometimes they don't even tell you like that. At least they told you like, but you'll also be doing this and apparel and events. It's like, what? Graphic design, like, no, those are all different.
You mentioned earlier how the esports community is definitely growing very, very quickly. Do you think the pandemic has actually helped esports to grow, as more people are now stuck at home and the traditional sports aren't actually on? Do you think COVID actually help esports?
I was thinking about that actually, and we were kind of thinking about that during the transition from work from home, and everything's super scary and we don't know what's going on. I was like, is content, because I work on a content team, I'm like, is our content going to go up? Because we do come into struggles with like creating content in this space. We can't shoot and all that stuff, and you got to send me hard drives. But also like people, are like watching more content. I think people are watching more streams. I think if you're a streamer, this was like a good time to like build a community. I think a lot of people are just kind of having those on now because they can. But it's hard, right? Because I want more people to watch esports. I actually don't know specifically the numbers of like League is what I follow the most right now. I don't know if League has gone up in viewership, but I feel like there was a time in the mid-season where I was like, wow, there's not a lot of people watching, but then they had their usual pickup. But it stinks because I feel like we're growing as like an industry, and more and more eyes outside of esports are looking at it and seeing what we do. And then we have these like productions where the players are at home and they're not in this cool arena. And like you have someone, I'm sorry, my cat really wants to go outside. Sorry. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So like the players aren't in the arena. You don't have the cool production staff. Like you really just have like the players in like their facility, and it doesn't look as nice. Like the casters, I don't know if you've been watching esports, but the casters casting from home, like in their bedroom and stuff. So like it pains me to think that someone who's like, oh, what is this esports thing? It looks awesome. Maybe I want to invest in this. And then seeing like the casters sitting in their like bedrooms, like, hello, everyone, welcome to the LCS. Like, I mean, it stinks that like that. I feel like this is like a great time where esports is getting first impressions from people who have no idea what it is. And then we're in this like COVID production value. So I think it might be a weird mix. I don't know if people are actually watching. I'm hoping so. And I think this next season, because League of Legends is off season, it's going in again, will be a good mix of to where the answer to your question is yes, because now they've adjusted to COVID living and COVID production. And hopefully I would assume that the production value is much higher and we can adjust much better. And then, yeah, people are at home and maybe they're willing to watch it. Maybe they're like, I've been home inside all day, all year. I am so down to watch some League of Legends right now. Like that's how I feel. Yeah. So hopefully that's a good chance for it to grow.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's quite an interesting question you had there, Sus. Okay, so our next question for you is so we've talked about what you think could be improved in esports, but what's something that you're actually excited for esports as an industry?
I mentioned a little bit, but like I'm just excited for that growth of where we get to that level of professionalism that I feel like that we need in order to continue to grow. But alongside that, there's also just like you see so many like esports facilities opening up. Like there are people that are really investing into this. Like I'm like there's more high school programs. Like, oh gosh, if I was in high school, I would have loved an esports program. Like we didn't have that. I just went to my friend's house after school and like played video games there, which is totally fine. But we're having like esports programs in high schools, which means high schools are recognizing esports as like a safe, first of all, space for like, you know, it's not like video games are melting brain. Like you don't hear much of that anymore. Like yeah. I'm watching a lot of like old newscasts of like this video game, like when Super Nintendo first came out, I was just researching. And there's all these videos about it rotting your brain. And I'm not saying video games can't rot your brain, but they're not considering it like the enemy. And so now, alternative from that, they're like encouraging kids to like have this constructive form of like after school activity, you know? So I think like seeing it bleed into like left and right of the like esports, then just the hub of people who already know esports. I think that's been really good. And yeah, that, and just like, again, like, I'm not being paid to say this. I'm truly a Team Liquid fan. Like, I love like what we do, and we just have so much. Like, our Marvel announcement was the first thing I was told about when I got hired. They're like, okay, yeah. So like, our first meeting, like, okay, so for those of you who don't know, if you're new, we're partnering with Marvel, and we're gonna have all this stuff. I'm like, what? So huge. Like, I really think that was like one of the biggest esports partnerships, and we have some really awesome stuff coming up, you guys, that I'm just as sitting on like I was back then. So like I'm really excited for all that there is to come, and I think if we just keep having these, it just legitimizes esports even more. So it's exciting. It's exciting. It's a really exciting time to be in esports right now.
Yeah.
Do you think you could give us some examples of what this partnership has like led to with Marvel?
With Marvel, I mean, right now it's just been like an apparel link. So we have a lot of our jerseys, but it's also just the name and attachment. Like Marvel believed in Team Liquid, believed in esports, and believed in Team Liquid to be like, let's make these cool jerseys. People are fans of us. Like, if you want to rep Team Liquid and you want to rep Spider-Man, like you can do both at the same time. It's kind of amazing. And what I think have done a good job doing is like not just saying like, yep, we partner with Marvel, check out our cool jerseys. Like we try to match the jerseys that the players wear with their storylines. So like when we signed a rookie, we rocked the Spider-Man jerseys for a really long time. And like just examples like that, we've been doing with the different teams. We've been trying to like match Marvel lore with our own personal lore, which I think is like a nice, good step. Like that, it really makes me believe that we took this to 100%. We didn't just like get this awesome deal and then just leave it at that. 100%. Like we pushed ourselves even further. And I'm actually not as much involved unless they tell us like, hey, like I did the Black Widow video. Like if they're like, we need a video to promote this, I'm not really involved in like what's going on. So I don't know what's on the horizon for Marvel, but I know that there is like exciting stuff in that like realm that they plan on doing. So
yeah. So, is there anyone like in particular in esports who you look up to and who's like inspired you to try and go further?
Yeah, I think personally in my life, Sabrina, Sabrina,
Yeah.
my best friend, has been like an amazing inspiration to me, and she's definitely helped drive me. Like having her as like a close friend where I can talk to about esports is also just like something I value a lot. And like when I complain about like the industry in general, like she understands and like she can relate, and it kind of inspires us to like do things about it. You know, like if she's like, I think I could do esports apparel, like she did it, and I'm happy to help her with that. And like it's she just inspires me in terms of like she's not just in esports. There's a lot of people who are just in esports, and that's totally fine. But she wants to improve esports. Like she cares about esports, and she's passionate about it. And I feel like I am too. And I don't want to just be in esports. I want to see it grow. I want all these things for it. So I think that's been a really good like mutually beneficial like friendship there. Another person that who has been an influence on me in the past has been my boss Steve at LA Valiant. I really came into esports organic because I'm a gamer and I'm a fan, but not in the industry. And so he really taught me everything I know about branding and like why, like the things that I know esports needs to grow. Like he kind of taught me like to think that way. I talked to him about this in the past, and he's like, yeah, like you're thinking these things on your own, you know? I was like, yeah, but like you taught me about it. You introduced me to it, you know? And I really appreciate him for that, because I think if I didn't get that intro into esports, I wouldn't have thought about esports as an industry, and I would just be like, just being in esports, which is cool. Like, yeah, I work in video games. It's awesome. I'm a big esports fan, but like he really got me thinking about branding and industry, and like it helped me form my own ideas about why and how I think esports can really like grow and do cool things. Ian, who's my boss now, is definitely someone I mentioned. Like, I really, really am grateful that I can video edit under someone like him and that he can help me. And I trust his opinion too. So like when I make something, I really value what he has to say about it, which is important, because if you don't value someone's opinion, you're gonna have a hard time making adjustments. But like Ian has been really great in my creative editing side. He's been a really great resource. And I'd say the only other people I can like that really, when you ask that question, I just thought of, they probably would be really surprised that I said this, but the content team over at Golden Guardians actually have a few friends of mine that I met actually through Team Liquid. One in particular is Miles. He works, I actually don't know his job title, but he's over at Golden Guardians and he's making some really cool stuff along with the rest of the team there. And I really like he worked at Team Liquid, and I really, really respected his creativity, and I really respected his collaboration. He was really good at collaborating, so I would get really excited when I had a project with him because I felt like I could bounce ideas off him, and he could bounce ideas off me. And I feel like he's creative too, so like I'm excited to hear what he has to say and what his ideas are. Super chill guy to work with, and just like physically talented at like shooting and like creating those things. So he was awesome. I really liked working with him. So when he left, I was like taken aback by how sad I was, because like even though he was like a friend and we've hung out outside of work, like I wouldn't like we don't talk often. Like I actually haven't talked to him in a while. So we're not like too close. I just really enjoyed working with him. So when he left, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like genuinely incredibly sad. So, but he's making cool stuff at Golden Guardians right now. And every time I see it, I'm just like, dang, like Miles is so good. Like he's just such a, like any team that has Miles is like totally beneficial. And anyone at that Golden Guardians team, like anyone who has that, like they're making really cool stuff. It's a shame. I feel like they're not getting the numbers that the stuff deserves because they are on Golden Guardians. I think if Golden Guardians wins like or ends up in top 4 this next season, then all of their content's gonna skyrocket because it's really high quality content. So yeah, they're I'd say that team and Miles are like people that I look up to too. Like when I see their cool stuff, it really makes me want to do cool stuff, which is how I would define that.
Yeah, that's really awesome to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
What's some advice that you'd want to give to someone who's trying to get in esports? It doesn't have to be like advice on how to get in, like, but maybe like some advice of like if they do get in, then how they should like handle themselves and what they should think about and act and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say one is know your worth. Like I said, in esports, you know, they can try and give you 3 jobs in one, or they can try and lowball you. But you should know, like, if you're getting in, I understand, like, you want to take that opportunity, you want to take the pay no matter what it is. And I'm not necessarily saying don't do that, but I'm saying know your worth. If you grow there and you're still not feeling like you're getting compensated the way you should, or you feel like you're being overworked with stuff that's not even your job responsibility, like, don't be afraid to mention those things in like a professional way. Because like, if we let this kind of culture continue, it's never going to change. I know, again, it's a passion, it's a dream job. So it's really hard to say no to anything. And because we're passionate, maybe we do want to do these other jobs. Like, okay, yeah, like I'm completely overworked, but I care. So I want to do these other things. Like, I get it. I totally relate to it. Just know that if you're burning yourself out, you're not helpful to anyone. And again, the industry's not going to grow if you're not at least someone that says like, hey, we should hire someone for this, or hey, we don't have the bandwidth for one person, whether it be me or anyone else, to do all these things. And you know, if everyone says that, then eventually sports is going to have to do it, you know. So yeah, know your worth. And then I would say this is something I value a lot, is like, be the fan. Like, you are a fan of, you care about this because not just because it's like a cool job, but you love video games and you love esports, and that really needs to stay as like the heart of esports. One thing I'm noticing a lot is non-endemic, meaning not coming from esports or like video games, coming into the space, which is great. Like, there's a lot of people from traditional sports coming in, and I could see why like that's valuable, right? Because it's competitive sports, but you really need at least that person to like do the research and like become passionate about it. Because I've seen both sides. I've seen someone from outside the space come in and really like grind down and ask questions, and even if they don't play or aren't good, they understand. Like, you got to understand the space. And I've worked with people who come from, you know, those things and like don't take the time to do that. And it's so transparent. Like, fans can smell BS from a mile away. And if like they'll know if you don't know esports. And so I think like one thing I will say about like Immortals is in my time there near the end, I would say that the ratio of people who do know esports, as in like is naturally organically a part of that world. I'm sorry, one sec. I gotta give. Sorry. He's like, I don't know if you can hear the scratching, but he's scratching. Who know the space, like, but just started like completely out of it, was very high percentage compared to the people who did naturally, organically play games. So a lot of the times me, like little social media coordinator, would get pulled into meetings about complete rebrand. Like, I'm fine to work at rebrands, but I would be pulled in to be like, what would esports people say about this and all this stuff? And yes, it's my job as the liaison and communicator for the community and for the brand. But it also was like, I'm looking at this room full of people asking me these questions, and I'm like, how do you guys not like know or take the time to like know this space? Like, I know that esports is a really exciting industry, but it's exciting for a reason, and you should look into it. And I think that's what helps. I think the hard part of that is there's a lot of working professionals in the world who, you know, they're valuable because they have that working professional traditional business sense, and you need that in any company. But there's not a lot of those that double dip as natural gamers. Like, the natural gamers are kind of my generation and the new generation who haven't been working in business for very long, who don't have that like experience at like high levels. It's very rare. They're just not two things that come across. Like, and so teams and orgs try to get the business sense and the esports sense and the business sense and the esports sense. But my dream utopia of esports are those business sense people being gamers and like being passionate about esports. Like, and again, a lot learned to be, and there are people out there who are both, but like, imagine where esports would be if the people who are so passionate about it, that really literally created it in its existence, or the passionate people, had that business sense that like orgs have a lot of because they need it. You know, like, I think the people who can create, or the teams who could create that balance, are doing a really good job. So I would say your most valuable asset, you got hired in esports, that's great, that's awesome, you're going to be great. Like, continue to be the fan, be the passionate person, be the one that knows the space. Because right now, if you got hired today, it very, very likely a lot of the higher ups like don't know those things. So you are that much valuable because you do know, like, you know who we're talking to, and you can provide direction to that org. And no matter what your job position is, I encourage you to speak out about those things. If you see like you see all these nightmare things, I don't know if you remember like the gamer girl dress. But that was like the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my
I saw
life.
that, yeah.
It was like the gaming. It was just such a miss.
It was like a mix of a jersey and a
It was
dress, wasn't
so
it? It was
bad.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, but like whatever, they made an ugly dress, but they also claimed it's what gaming women's identity is or something. It's like saying like it was
Yeah.
claiming to finally give identity to women gamers, which is not, that's a big no, you don't say that. And then like through comments and all the bad rep, they asked, was any woman involved in this? And they basically said no.
Yeah.
So like that situation, it wasn't esports, but that situation was the problem was you were catering to an audience without once consulting them. There were no women involved in making that decision. And it goes the same with esports. Like you shouldn't make esports decisions without an esports gamer community person who knows the space that you're trying to market to in the room. Like you need them in the room. And I've seen like partnerships in esports that just don't make sense. And I'm just like, I feel like if you knew the space, this could have been prevented. So I think that just makes you as a person much more valuable if you have that and you're trying to get an esports. So I'd say use it, milk it and use it.
Speaking of rebrands, that made me just think, what was your opinion on the LA Valiant rebrand from the green and gold to the more like blue and yellow kind of color scheme?
My opinion on it?
Yeah.
So season 2 is when a lot of the teams decided they wanted to change colors. Like the most notable one is Mayhem was like, we don't want to be McDonald's anymore. But Blizzard told us that we can't change our colors until season 3 because it takes a lot of prep on their end. And I get it. So we were only allowed to make very slight changes, as in like color shade. So if you'll remember, Valiant season 1 was a very pukey green color. And
Changed,
season
like, forest
2,
green.
yeah, and I loved that color. Sabrina picked it, actually.
Yeah, I
she
really
picked the
like
hex
that
code.
color.
It was good. I felt like okay, I'm from Wisconsin, so maybe I'm biased, but like the green was like really like a good color, and like there weren't, the only other green in the team was like this lime neon green. I'm like, but there's so many shades of blue in there. Like I didn't want to be blue. So when they pitched it to us, like, hey, that we got to submit now, beginning of season 2, and I'm like, what? We have a really cool green. Like, why are we changing? They're like, we want to make it more LA notable. So they wanted it to be like UCLA. They're like, when you think of LA, what do you think of? I'm like, Hollywood. They're like, no, you think of UCLA. I was like, no, I don't. But I don't know. It's just my opinion, right? A lot of people were against it because no one, it's hard to convince anyone of change. But after a while, I think a lot of people were like, okay, I can kind of see. We didn't even know what blue yet. They were trying to pick the shade. All I could think is like, I want us to stand out as a brand. I don't want to be another blue team. I don't see how that makes us more unique. I think that makes us less unique. And those are all my reasonings. And one thing I'm told a lot is that, which I don't notice, I just do it naturally, but like I'm not like afraid to say that. Like our CEO is trying to tell us like which blue should I pick, and I'm like, don't pick blue. Like, why are we picking blue? Like, I like the green so much better. And near the end, it became a meme because I literally was the only one who hadn't like, I wasn't pushing hard, right? Because I know I just wasn't afraid to say like, I really don't think we should do this. Everyone else was just kind of like, whatever, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So our CEO Ari was like, really, I think he was just trying to convince me because I was the last like bowling pin that wouldn't fall. So he actually, he's so sweet. He took me to Blizzard to like pick the official blue, which I thought was like in the end super ironic because I'm like, I'm only one in the company who still says that I don't even want blue. So like I did pick the blue in the end, but I didn't want it. But like, like I think it looks fine. Like I think it worked in their favor. I don't think fans were particularly mad. I was actually gone before season 3. So I don't know really, but it seems to me like fans were okay with it. Which is fine too. I still, if you were to ask me my unbiased opinion about it, I still think they don't stand out nearly as much because they're blue. And I think it's just very bright as well. It's very like, they did a good job of like making it like 80s themed to kind of fit that brightness. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of just like, I liked the green better, and that was my end all be all. I'd say my lesson and takeaway from that is don't be difficult and don't be like not a team player, but don't be afraid to say your opinion, especially because it's the CEO. I think a lot of people were complaining about the blue, and then when Ari would ask, they'd be like, yeah, I guess I could see it. I was like, I don't know, I don't like it, and I think Ari appreciated that to a certain extent. Like, no one wants, like, he really wants to know. I'm a gamer, and he values my opinion, even though I'm not the end all be all, and maybe I'm wrong, but like, he values my opinion, and so I think saying it is half the battle for anyone. You know, like I mentioned before, like, you want to tell the people who don't know the space, and that means you got to be comfortable speaking your opinion. Because if they're like, we want to make this esports dress, if you're that person who's too shy or has a really difficult time saying your opinion, that esports dress is going to get shipped out to the world and everyone's going to hate you. So like, don't be afraid to at least say your opinion, because if they're like, we hear you, but we're going to do it anyway, then like, that's all you can do, you know? Yeah. So yeah, that was my battle with the blue.
Because I definitely say like the Mayhem recolor from like the McDonald's to like the Miami Vice colors was quite a strong rebrand for them. I think that worked really well for them, but I don't think there was much of a reason to change those like really good like colors that Valiant had.
Yeah, like definitely like Mayhem was memed for their colors, so they felt like they needed to change, and then they also had a really unique change. Like the blue and pink was unique; it like stood out more, and so I feel like this was not only unnecessary, but it was a step in like a weird direction that wasn't necessarily innovative.
Okay, so now, is there any questions from people in chat for our lovely Heather? We'll see if we get anything.
The stream may be a bit behind, so we might have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have to wait a little bit.
Oh. You like Team Liquid CSGO? That's awesome. I love our CSGO. Although I love our vlogs. Like every team kind of has their own form of like storytelling. For League of Legends, it's a documentary series, but for CSGO, it's like more vlog style. And the roster at the time that we did our last vlog was like organically friends. They're really fun. Like, you can't really do vlog style videos with a lot of teams because they're just honestly not fun behind the scenes. Like, they don't joke around, they just are to themselves. So CSGO, I think, was a perfect marriage of like vlog form and that team, because they were always having fun and having a good time, and you enjoyed watching them do stuff. I didn't really work on that though. We actually have someone who does all our CSGO content. His name is Joseph E. He is seriously awesome. But he's big in like shooters like Valiant and or Valorant and CSGO, so he does that content.
Would you say Team Liquid was like your favorite team within like other esports before you joined there, or have you like started liking it more as you've been working there?
Like competitively, the latter. I feel emotional attachments to our League of Legends team because I've been editing their faces for so long, and I've been like seeing them in the cafeteria for so long, or the kitchen. And so like it's hard. Roster changes were really hard for me. They were hard for me at Valiant too, because like, you know, I worked closely with these players and I was just sad to see them go. As an org in general, I always, again, respected how professional the org was, but I considered myself a fan of, I was just an Afromove fan. So whatever team Afromove, like for CLG for the longest time, I was an Afromove fan. I didn't really have a team that I like bought the merch for and like, you know, followed that really like the way I did with Valiant. Like I did do that for Valiant. Yeah. Like before, like I even really got to know the players' personalities, I'm like, I bought the Valiant jersey because it was Los Angeles, you know, they did a really good job of giving you a reason to be a fan of them. I live in Los Angeles, I'll be a Valiant fan. And so that came team like fan first and then loving the team and roster. But like Liquid, I learned to love these players a lot. These as in League, because again, I focus a lot on mainly League. So I was really sad. I cried when Impact left, and I had to edit Double Lift's goodbye video, and I can't move my camera because it would be hard to put back. But we have because my boyfriend and I live together. We have 3 squad posters, which is our our series on League of Legends, and they're like movie posters, and like Peter Double Lift is like smack because he's our star boy. It was like smack in the middle of all of them. So it was above the desk at the time. So I'm editing Double Lift's goodbye video, and when I would think about what to do, I'd look up and see his face, and they'd like get all teary-eyed. It was the most dramatic like video editing I've ever done. So like there is that level of attachment that came after. I wouldn't have cried if he left Team Liquid before that.
Yeah,
that's quite funny that he was just watching over you as you were editing it.
I know, that's really weird. It was a weird experience.
We have a question from chat. Did you work on the recent video for Fallen?
I didn't do Fallen's video. I wish I could tell you who did. It wasn't me and it wasn't Connor, who's an editor here. I don't know if it was Joseph. I think it was my best guess. Is that it was Joseph E, the person I just mentioned who does CS:GO stuff. But I actually didn't watch the video. I actually didn't even know that we announced it yet. So there's that. But yeah, I didn't even work closely with Fallen or that team when we were on the same team at MIBR. I didn't do much with MIBR. They weren't there. They were like somewhere else. So I didn't see them very often. Our CS:GO players at Team Liquid will stop by before COVID, obviously, would stop by a lot. But now they're working out of our EU facility. I don't know if you know, but Team Liquid has what they have in LA, but also in the Netherlands, except much better because that one was built this year. So it's like amazing. But yeah, they've been over there living it up in a place that is COVID free and has a really nice facility. They're like, we're never going back to the States again.
So is that facility, is the facility that you're in, was that purpose built?
Purpose built?
So like, was it built for to be like an esport? Was it built for Team Liquid, or was it just like an office building?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Alienware paid for it. So it's called the Alienware Training Facility. And yeah, it's like equipped with 3 like pod rooms that are meeting rooms, but they're also streamer rooms. We have like a big conference room. The whole back of it is our content studio. So they have 2 edit bays. Like you wouldn't find an editing bay in like a normal office facility, and like big open like glass. It's got our branding all over it. So Alienware Team Liquid all over the walls and stuff. The kitchen's really cool. It's got like Team Liquid kitchen stuff, and then it's got all of our like the history of our accomplishments like along the wall. And then in the back is a VOD review. We have the CS:GO, because at the time it was CS:GO, and League of Legends scrim rooms where they would scrim. They got all the computers there. The coaches have computers. They have like lockers. Their lockers actually say like ADC mid like support on them, so they can put their stuff in there. And then in the back of that is a big theater with like a big screen, and then like on the podium, the coaches can like draw on the podium so that it appears on the screen. So when they review the games and review the VODs, they can like draw basically and take notes. So it's very, very equipped for esports. It was like custom designed for esports.
Yeah. So another question coming from chat. Do you get to manage people in your role? And if so, how do you find that?
Oh, good question. I'm hired in as a video editor, and when I became senior video editor, I don't manage anyone. I'm just being given priority on like a little bit bigger projects. Like right now I'm working on an Origin series, which is like I'm going to be working on it for a month, and that's something that's kind of given to the senior video editor. What's interesting is that like I'm working in esports, of course, but I'm working in content production, which is like what I knew. Like that's what I went to school for. I know what it's like to be on a set, and I know what it's like to be in pre-production. I know what it's like to be in post-production. So in filmmaking, the hierarchy is actually important. It's not like political. I mean, in LA, like in television, when I worked at Netflix, it was very political. But like in this space, it's really just like who reports to who is really important, because then things can get lost and things can get really confusing, because we're all working on like one thing. We're all working to make sure this one video comes out, which means someone has to edit and someone has to shoot it and someone has to prepare it and someone has to be in it. Like there's a lot of things that could fall through the cracks. So having someone to report to only it's just key. Like I can't work with the cinematography on my own, because then other people get confused. They're like, wait, when did this happen? So long story short, no, I don't manage anyone. My boss, my superior, the man who hired me and can promote me, is our director. That's Ian. And then the person I kind of report to, like we have a project manager who literally does that, like makes sure that we're all reporting to him. There's actually 2 now. So that things don't fall through the cracks. So he, like in a way, his name is Ant, and the other one's Joey, and the other one's John. Actually, all 3 of them kind of do it, but like they kind of make sure everything goes through them so that they can manage us, but it's managed in a different sense. It's project managed, not like literally like employer manage. So that answers your question. I don't think I would manage anyone as like a senior video editor. I'd have to move into like a director kind of role. Or because even producers don't manage the editors.